All right, American History 1, folks. We're looking at Unit 3. We're looking at Chapter 5 as far as discussing. It's, I think, really good. If you look at the Chapter 5 core learning objectives that talks about explaining the challenges faced by both British and American military leaders in the Revolutionary War, identify the key turning points in the Revolutionary War and how they changed the direction of the war, describe the ways in which the American Revolution was also a civil war, examine how the Revolutionary War was an engine for political and social change, and compare the impact of the Revolutionary War on African Americans, women, and Native Americans, because all those are three rather important factions. Here's what you have to know. We go from arguing, we go from fussing, we go from skirmishing to all-out war. You have to remember a couple of things. The British Army is an army, all right? They've been fighting the French. They've been fighting the Prussians. They've been fighting other organized armies. And so when it breaks down to war here, it's going to be the British regulars against a bunch of people with guns. Because that's all we are. We're a bunch of people with guns. We have some former militia. We have some former officers. You know, chief of those is going to be Washington. We have a reasonably organized political body that is going to be what is going to be eventually a convention, not quite a constitution, but the idea is they're going to get together as an assembly and they're going to officially declare a Continental Army. They're going to officially declare that good old George Washington is going to be in charge of that. Each of these independent colonies, and again, they're independent colonies, is going to promise some money, going to promise some soldiers, going to promise some help. And the problem is that they're promises. They can't necessarily be held to the promises. So what's going to happen is we have a disorganized militia with Washington trying to head it up that's going to be headquartered in the largest cities. You know, think large cities, think Boston, think Philadelphia, think New York, okay, the areas around there at this particular point, because that's mostly where they're at. The South, okay, when you get down to Virginia on farther south, is considered loyalist territory. The ones who are those rebels, the ones who are the revolutionaries, are usually up north. So that's when we start to talk about Philadelphia and Boston and New York and all the areas up there, because they're more the rabble-rousers. What's going to happen is this. We're going to look at citizen soldiers. We're going to look at the fabled Minutemen. We're going to look at a loose-knit militia army versus an actual army. And what's going to happen is Washington is going to fight a series of losing battles. He's going to figure out that his men are overmatched, that his men are not really ready to fight, and he's going to end up doing a lot of withdrawing. He withdraws in order to not save face, but to save men and save supplies, because he knows he cannot win a face-to-face battle yet. Okay, yet. The British commander knows that all he needs is one really good face-to-face battle to kick the stuffing out of the American colonists, and it'll all be over with. So Washington's going to avoid that. He's going to keep on withdrawing. He's going to get run out of the big cities until eventually what we're looking at is him camping outside of New Jersey. The first time he's actually really going to win anything is when you start to look at the Battle of Trenton. What will happen is the British are fighting more than one war. So while they're fighting, they're going to go ahead and hire some mercenaries. They're going to hire what are called Hessians. And the Hessians are actually German or Germanic people from the country of Hesse, or the colony of Hesse at this particular point. And so the Hessians are good fighters. The Hessians are going to come in and fight alongside. But what will happen is that in the middle of winter, in the middle of one of the colder times, that Washington, who is camping out at this particular point, is going to create a surprise attack. Most everyone has seen the picture of Washington and his troop in boats crossing the river. Well, what's happening is they're crossing the river in the middle of night to stage a sneak attack on a group of Hessians, which is going to be that Battle of Trenton. That win is going to give Washington some momentum. It's going to give him some backing in Congress. It's going to provide him some more soldiers. He's going to get a couple underneath his belt, and that works to his advantage. Because what we look at after that is alliances. We're going to ally with France. We're going to go ahead and ally and create a treaty of amity and commerce, not just with the French, but a couple of other people. What's significant about that is the French are just looking for a reason to give the British a bloody nose. They've been fighting against them for quite a long time, and they're looking for a reason to give them a bloody nose, especially after that whole French-Indian War. And so this gives them a reason, but what they're going to want is they're going to want a bit more of American success. As we're getting into winter, folks, winter is not a war time of season. It's a time of season where you withdraw, you go back to your home. So Washington and his company can't go back to their home, so they're going to withdraw and set up a winter camp in Valley Forge. Valley Forge is not the best place for a winter camp, but it's not the worst place. It's hard for the British to get to. They're not going to want to do it in the middle of winter. But the fact is that Washington's going to camp there out of necessity. He's going to lose a lot of troops. People are going to wander off. People are going to die. People are going to go back home. And he is going to have a lot of issue with desertion. Because he doesn't have the supplies, he doesn't have the support, he doesn't have that monetary funding that he's supposed to have from the Continental government. And so he's going to have some issues, but some good things come out of this. One of those is a gentleman named Baron von Steuben. Another person is going to be the Marquis de Lafayette. Baron von Steuben is an interesting guy. If you read about him in the book, it talks about the fact that he is a commander. He is a commander from an old Prussian army, and he is old guard. And it's funny because he doesn't speak a whole lot of English, but he's going to offer to train the militia and whip them into shape and to create an organized army. And I think it's interesting because he's going to take these, sorry to say, but a bunch of good old boys with guns, and he's going to whip them into shape. He wants to have them drill as soldiers. He wants to have them shoot as soldiers. He wants to have them react as soldiers, and it aggravates him. And I think one of the most telling things is it aggravates him so much that he wants to yell and scream at them. But he yells and screams at them in German, and they can't understand him, so it doesn't make a difference. So he goes to the translator, come here, come here, come here. Cuss at them for me because I'm mad. Cuss at them in English. It's interesting because we look at some changes. We're going to create the beginnings of an army. We're going to create the beginnings of this alliance, and it's going to evolve. From there, we start to look at a couple other folks. One of my most interesting people, besides Cornwallis, is going to be Major Patrick Ferguson, who is a relatively well-known guy because he is a British soldier. And what he's going to do is he's going to go amongst the loyalists in the South and try to recruit because it's supposed to be a bastion of loyalists. And what he'll do is he'll take some of the locals and he'll take his soldiers and go into South Carolina. He'll go into North Carolina. He'll go into what is going to become Tennessee and Kentucky in the back hills. And he's going to go and say, hey, listen, we're here to fight for the king. We're here to recruit for the king. We're here to go ahead and set things right. And there's the people that are with us and there's people that are against us. If you're with us, then great. Come and volunteer and help. If you're against us and we're going to find you, we're going to go ahead and we're going to burn your farms. We're going to shoot your livestock. We're going to have our way with your women and make you regret that you ever did that. But for now, we're going to go fight these colonials. And so, if you're a true man, you'll come with us and fight. And he's going to leave. And it's interesting because, gosh, if you all know anything about the South, if you tell a bunch of Southern boys that you're going to mistreat people and you're going to mistreat their people, well, what he does is he creates an army of revolutionaries. What happens is they said, hey, we were willing to stay back here. We were willing to camp out. We were willing to ignore all this, but now you done pissed us off. What happens is they decide to go ahead and get together, this disorganized, organized bunch of country boys, bring their guns, go over the mountain and meet up with Ferguson at the Battle of Kings Mountain and kick his butt. Ferguson's going to get killed there, and the Battle of Kings Mountain is going to be one of those turning points. Now, there's quite a few more things, but I'm hitting the time limit on this particular video, so I'm going to go ahead and let you go for now.